Chapter 191. Part 3 of 6. This time, we appeared in front of a sickbed. A nearly dead and slightly crispy version of me was on it. Taya was curled up in a corner, crying. Twilight was trying to console her, but it wasn't working. The walls were covered in vines and a few were hanging from the ceiling. I don't know how I actually remembered this, but it may have just been a projection. So this is when Taya almost killed me, I said. Fun stuff. And when you became immortal, Reason said. This time, the room we were in was so small that they couldn't actually appear behind me. I finally realized that they were invisible until their first line was done, because Reason and Fear both appeared in front of me. It was far too much for you to handle, Fear said. What Taya did to you meant nothing in comparison. I recognize what Taya did was an accident. I never blamed her for it. That doesn't mean she didn't blame herself, Reason said. This is when she started trying to learn magic to protect you. We have 2 memories for you. Baller. Let's do it. Fear reached up to poke me first. I beheld Luna and Celestia looking over what was essentially a charred husk. I'm calling a pause, I said. I don't want to look at myself like this. Aqua, would you mind blurring this or something? After a second, the chunk of burnt meat on the table became a tasteful bouquet. All right, unpause. What do you mean, you don't know what to do? Luna demanded. You can heal anything. Fix him. I can heal anything on a pony. Nav hasn't been in a hurry to let me magically examine him. And now that he's more ash than person, it's a little too late to magically examine him. There's a lot of things I could try, but none of them are guaranteed to actually work. Not with him being this bad. If we were just a few minutes later, I could not have stabilized him. So will he just remain in a coma indefinitely? I said there are things I could try. Nav himself actually gave me an idea for something I've been considering looking into more for a while now. He mentioned absorbing the life of a tree. That sounds familiar. You remember Poira, don't you? I do. I'm not sure Nav would appreciate that fate. How much do you think he would appreciate being dead? Celestia sweetly asked. Honestly? He'd probably thank us. He might, actually. Well, as I said, I've been meaning to experiment with creating new tree things. Particularly ones that are loyal to me. Nav with Poira's skills would be an incredible asset. And with the data we collect from him, we can create several more agents just like him. I don't like this, Luna said. We're putting too much on him. I've been meaning to give him more rewards, Celestia said. That 500 bits was just the start. He's proven his use. If his loyalty and good deeds continue, he'll continue gaining power and status. Up next is a knighthood. You would make him a knight? I would. Just think, Luna. Your first knight since your return could be another tree sibling. A tree sibling you can sleep with, at that. Luna looked down at the pretty flowers for a moment. She seemed awfully conflicted. Finally, she sighed and hung her head. So be it, then. Do what you must. The memory ended, putting me back in the sick room. So I was just another magical experiment, I said. It was a magical experiment that saved your life, Reason said. And made you effectively immortal, Fear said. Up to and including becoming a tree. I feel like I've mostly come to terms with the immortality thing now, I said. It's definitely scary, but I recognize that it's coming and I'm starting to make plans to put myself in a world worth living. You were scared for such a long time, Reason said. Are you sure you've come to terms with it? Part of why I was scared is because I was Celestia's slave. That's no longer the case. Now I'm scared because I'm Discord's slave. But I either break that hold by getting a soul of my own or I don't and become his bitch. There's no real uncertainty. Until you break his hold and become free, Fear said. Then you'll have an entire immortality to look forward to with no one to rule over you but yourself. I'm confident I'll find ways to pass the time. I guess a part of me is still afraid. Even if I might not technically be completely and utterly immortal, my projected lifespan is a lot longer than any human has any right to have. But I'm confident that I'll either be able to manage it or I'll be surrounded by people capable of helping me get through it. Confidence is unbecoming of you, Fear said. Your followers expect indecision and a weak personality. That makes you easier for them to control. So I've realized. I plan for confidence to carry me into the future. If my companions can't tolerate that, then I'll get rid of them. Eternity is a long time, Reason said. You have time to reflect. Would you like to opine on why you believe you are fine with your immortality? Because I have Luna, Celestia, Moonbeam, Athena, all the elementals, Spike, Taya, Blossom, and probs a bunch more who will be with me along for the ride. For a long time, I thought I would essentially be alone most of the time. Sure, I would be working with Luna and Celestia, but I highly doubted I'd have many other friends. I spent so much time being depressed about losing everyone that I never stopped to think of everyone I might gain. If I've found this many other immortals on my journey so far, think about what else awaits me. I will live a long time and that does worry me, but I'll be spending that time with some cool people. That's reasonable, I suppose, Reason said. A huge part of all fear is that of the unknown. You are going into a big future, but it's with trustworthy companions by your side. That would put any mind at ease. It certainly helps. So what's the next memory? Reason lifted up a hoof and poked me. This time, I saw Twilight and Taya. My filly wasn't crying anymore, so I think this was after I woke up. I can't let that happen again, Taya very firmly said. I won't ever hurt him again. The only way to stop outbursts like that is to learn control, Twilight said. You must learn to harness your magic. Given what you did, I'd say that you have a large potential. Nav is right, you can do whatever you want with your magic. You absolutely don't have to use it to hurt any pony, but you do have to learn how to control it. Otherwise, outbursts like this might happen again and you could hurt others. I want to learn how to protect Daddy. I can definitely teach you how, depending on what exactly you mean. Magic allows for several types of shields and wards. It also allows magical buffs that help ponies in all kinds of ways. Daddy told me something once, Taya slowly said. The best defense is a good offense. Does that mean that the best way to protect him is to learn how to fight? What? No, that's crazy. Look, Taya. Every pony really likes Nav, but he's been through a lot. Sometimes he says things that don't exactly make sense. You need to be wary of taking anything he tells you at face value. Even now, he still doesn't always understand how things in Equestria work. So what is the best defense? That depends on the situation. My brother's special talent is actually to create incredibly powerful shields. I'd say that usually, giant impenetrable shields are the best defense. If nobody can get to Nav, nobody can hurt him. But then how will he hug me? Taya asked, her head tilting. You'd be inside the shield too, of course. Oh, perfect. So are you saying Daddy's crazy? I'm not saying that Nav is crazy. However, some of what he says is crazy. Some of what he does is also questionable. If you ever have any doubts about anything he tells you, please come to me before you repeat it. And maybe don't tell him I said that. Why? Shouldn't he stop saying crazy things? Yes. But humans and ponies have different minds. What's crazy to us might not be crazy to him. For all I know, some of the things he says makes perfect sense to him. What if they make perfect sense to me, too? Taya asked. That actually made Twilight grin. It was the super annoying grin she used to get on her face all the time when I said something she thought was stupid and she thought she was going to be teaching me a lesson. It didn't usually end well for her. In what world could the best defense ever be a good offense? Twilight asked with her smarmy, smug tone. This one. Daddy defended our ship from pirates by attacking their ship before their unicorns could get in range, saving the unicorns on board and using them to kill the remaining pirates. Isn't that using offense defensively? You were attacked by pirates. Yep, on the way back from Egypt. Daddy saved the day. Well, that's one time, but... And before he found me, he apparently defended the ambassador from assassins by finding them before they could lay their trap and beating them in a 1-on-2 fight. So he used an offensive attack to defend the ambassador. Isn't that using offense defensively, too? Okay, and in what world do either of those actions make any kind of logical sense at all? Twilight asked. What, I guess flew onto a pirate ship? That's crazy. I guess our world, because it made perfect sense to him, he did it, and it worked perfectly. Twilight sighed and rubbed her temple. This was probably the first sign of what was to come, with me and Taya both teaming up against her with logic and reasoning. Oh, and there was also that time with the Naga. He apparently defended their home by leading an attack on the opposing force. Alright, how about this? Would attacking have been necessary if the enemy couldn't get to the friendly Naga in the first place? Well, it's not like the other Naga would have just gone away, right? You'd have to attack eventually to get rid of them. Why waste magic with a shield in the first place if you could just use magic to fight them instead? That way, Daddy wouldn't have to do it. Twilight's shoulders slumped and she sighed. Taya, I really don't think your father wants you fighting. To be honest, I don't think he likes magic that much. I'm sure he'd be much happier if you got into healing instead. Maybe. Oh, if I learned how to heal, I could help him torture more cats. What? Thankfully, the memory ended there. So apparently my filly was a psychopath for longer than I thought, I said. That's not true, Fear said. You had concerns she was a psychopath much earlier on. I'm gonna have to take your word for it, fam. You can also take mine, Reason said. You did have concerns, but you weren't certain. Well, I'd say I was right. At least in that regard, it wasn't entirely my fault. I just didn't help as much as I should have. So, I guess the takeaway here is that Taya was thinking about becoming my vicious attack filly for longer than I thought, too. Is that what you took away from this? Reason asked. Yes. I literally just said it. Why? Is there something else? Yes, there is. Think before you speak. If you hadn't told those violent stories to Taya and told her anything about battles, she probably wouldn't have gotten a cutie mark in fighting. That depends on how you look at cutie marks, I said. Are they fate or are they possibilities? It's entirely possible that it was always Taya's fate to become a warrior, either for me or for Egypt. If cutie marks are just possibilities, then I'd say I was a pretty big part of what made her choose this path. According to Luna, fates are just possibilities, Reason said. So when Taya was born, she had many possible fates. Your actions and words pushed her toward the fate of violence. Alright, I'll accept that. But I'll also say that Taya having a cutie mark in violence is probably the least of my concerns involving her. Like, it was a fuck up, but there's really nothing wrong with being a warrior. Especially when, you know, dying in battle is a short-term problem and you never have to worry about being permanently maimed. You still can't stand the idea of her getting hurt, Fear said. I wouldn't be able to stand the idea of that even if she wasn't a warrior. At least this way, I know she can take care of herself. I've also been able to arrange to keep her out of any real danger. From the looks of things, she's having a blast. Neither of the aspects seemed amused by the pun, but my guide turned light pink for a second or two. Do you really think this is good for her? Fear asked. Oh hell no. But her cutie mark is combat magic, as much as I might like to say otherwise. I can't ask her not to do what she's best at, especially when I have no excuse to fight, either. Of course you have an excuse, Reason said. You are an adult and she is your permaphily. That's all the excuse you need. If you let her make the decisions, are you really the adult? I'm certainly going to do what I can to keep us out of combat in the future. Now that I have Celestia under my pseudo-control, I don't think I'll need to do nearly as much of my own dirty work. When it comes time for the Tartarus invasion, I plan to do my best to keep Taya out of the fighting. I don't want her going against demons. You shouldn't want her fighting against anything, Reason said. And until I got Luna and took over Celestia, I didn't really have many other options. I needed magical power. Now I have it in spades and will do my best to keep Taya away from combat. If she doesn't like it, you're right. I am the adult and she is my eternophily. That is the choice she made. A choice we will get to, my guide said. Are you ready to move on? Am I ask, looking over to Reason. Never forget that you are Taya's only parent, the only one she respects and obeys. You are the one she will seek to emulate. No matter what else is happening, if you are fighting, she'll want to join you. And knowing her, she'll find a way to make it happen. Keep that in mind come Tartarus. I will. My guide's eyes flashed and we moved on. We appeared on the overlook at Kadan's wedding. Although when I took a second to look around, I saw that Twilight and I weren't there. That meant it was actually Chrysalis's wedding. I guess I'm not surprised to end up here, I said. I did kinda help change the course of history. Are we going to be covering the whole week? This is when you were knighted, Fear said. This is when Luna finally tied her strings to you, Reason said. And this is when you saved a queen, a princess, and a wedding, Pride said. All while having your mind twisted to lust by those you trusted, Pain said. This is the last time you felt me for a long time, Hope said. The wedding is when I died for so long, way to be dramatic. So we got the whole crew here this time, hey. I said, turning around. This isn't all of us, Reason said. You just don't really feel much until you get out of your miasma a little further down the line. Ah. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened this week. Do we have any fun memories? That depends on your definition of fun, Pain replied with a shrug. I know I'll have fun. Sounds like a no to me. Let's get it over with, then. End of part 3.